Namo Buddhaya. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. So, this is our regular Tuesday evening meditation and Dhamma talk program. And this is our last Tuesday evening program prior to going into our winter retreat period. So these past couple weeks been on the theme of peace. And today I'd like to continue with that, but also come to a close with that theme and see what's going to happen next. Oh, I'm going to get myself arranged here. All right. Well, today I would like to consider peace in terms of, being able to find it anywhere, being able to develop it and carry it with us. And it's really, I think, a matter of how we attend, how we turn our attention. There's always something around in the external world that will be distracting in some way, not fully peaceful. Some sound, some thought from earlier in the day, some, bodily discomfort. Anytime we have a body, it needs things, right? It needs to move around a little bit. It needs to, all the obvious things, eat and drink and sleep and use the toilet and all of that. And some of that comes up in meditation. Even if we get ourselves well arranged in meditation, still, the body needs to wiggle and needs to move. It's got this or that complaint after a while. So that will always be true. If we're attending very closely to the body, there will always be something there. But the way that we attend and what we attend to, this is where we have our freedom. This is where we're not just bound to, the little, either the large or the small pains and sufferings of the world or our lives or these bodies. Depending on how we attend and what we attend to, there is the possibility for peace anyway, despite everything else. What the Buddha teaches us and what he's trying to show us. I hear my sound is not good. How are others? Let's see, how is it? Can you hear me okay? Okay. Well, you bring my mic a little bit closer.
I did turn you all the way up on my computer, and I don't usually.
Okay, interesting.
I think you're just soft-spoken today.
Well, I think I'm usually soft-spoken. All right. Okay, I'll try to, or maybe my mic is running out of batteries. That's another possibility. Let me try the other one. Okay, is this any better? Yes? All right, well, okay. So maybe that's, plug the other one in. Maybe it'll work a little better after it's charged up. Okay, so returning to our topic, even when there are small annoyances, such as the sound not working the way we want it to, we can still be peaceful. And that's the theme of our evening today. So I'm going to invite you into meditation, and we're going to notice, well, we just start by noticing where we are. Start by noticing what's here. There's a body here, seated on the chair or on the cushion. And the body is making contact with the chair or the cushion. You can feel some pressure there, the weight of the body on the ground. Weight and pressure letting us know this body is here. Move our attention through the body, starting with the spine, bringing your attention from the base of the spine up, up to the top of the head, straightening, balancing, not too tight, but upright, upright and steady. And letting this be the basis for everything else to just relax. Or just be as it is. Checking in with what's here in this body. What's going on with the face and head. Whatever it is, just knowing it. Checking in with the neck and throat. Knowing any sensations there just as they are. Checking in with the shoulders. Bringing the attention down the arms to the hands. Bringing the attention to the chest, the upper torso, feeling the movement of the breath. Feeling the belly and lower torso, expanding and contracting. Feeling again the seat and its rootedness, groundedness on the cushion or the chair. Feeling the legs, and the feet. Having checked in with this whole body, just noticing what's here. What's here in this body? And opening up to the rest of the room you're in. What's here? What can you hear? What sounds? The temperature. Are there any smells? Not necessarily looking all around, but just sort of knowing, is it bright or is it dark? What's here in this room now? And then I invite you to consider what's not here right now. What else might you encounter in your day that's not here right now? Probably you've come to a quiet place relatively for your meditation time. Probably set it up in a way that's comfortable, calm. Set it up in a way that is empty of some distractions that you meet in your day. I invite you to notice that emptiness. Notice the space that you've created for yourself by coming to this place. There's some degree of peace here. Still, some other things remain. The sounds, the temperature, the sensations of the body, the thoughts in the mind. And just as we came to a quiet place to sit in the physical sense, I invite you to bring your mind back to a quieter place inside. Just as the world goes on outside the room, but you're sitting quietly within. No need to go out to the sound. You don't need to go out to the thoughts. Every bodily sensation, every little itch, and let those things be as they are. And bring the attention back inside to a quieter place, a place that's empty of those things. It helps to have an anchor. You can pay attention to the breath, giving yourself the quiet place of the breath to rest the mind. Letting the other things be as they are. Bringing the mind to the place that is empty, except for the breath. With clarity, what's here in this place and what's not. abiding in this quiet place with the breath, empty of everything else. Or if you can find an even more peaceful place, just rest, resting there, empty of everything else. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So, my inspiration for this evening's meditation, I know some of you may recognize, came from the Chula Sunyata Sutta, the shorter discourse on emptiness. And, well, it's not an exact match for the sutta, but I want to just give you a brief, we won't do the whole sutta, just want to share a little bit of it with you. So I have heard, at one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in the stilt long house of Migara's mother in the eastern monastery. Then in the late afternoon, Venerable Ananda came out of retreat and went to the Buddha. He bowed, sat down to one side and said to him, "Sir, this one time the Buddha was staying in the land of the Sakyans, where they have a town named Townsville." This is Bhante Sujata's translation. Nagara is the town. There I heard and learned this in the presence of the Buddha. The Buddha said, "Ananda, these days I usually practice the meditation on emptiness." Another way this is sometimes translated is, "I usually abide in emptiness." The word here is sunyata viharenahang. So sunyata is emptiness, vihara is abiding or dwelling, staying in a place. And then there's a grammatical ending, and then ahang means I. So I abide in emptiness. I practice the meditation on emptiness. I trust I properly heard, learned, applied to the mind, and remembered that from the Buddha. This is Venerable Ananda's question. The Buddha says, yes, indeed, you properly heard, learned, applied the mind, and remembered that. Now, as before, I usually practice the meditation on emptiness. I usually abide in emptiness. Consider this stilt longhouse of Migara's mother. This is the monastery where he was staying at that time. It had been offered by a lay supporter, Migara's mother. But it was a monastery. It's empty of elephants, cows, horses, and mares. It's empty of gold and silver and of gatherings of men and women. There is only this that is not emptiness, namely, the oneness dependent on the mendicant Sangha, the Sangha of bhikkhus, maybe also bhikkhunis, we don't know. But anyway, all the busyness of the village is not there. Busyness of the elephants, cows, horses, and mares, and buying and selling gold and silver, men and women gathering. All that's left here is the monastics and the monastery. And this is a kind of emptiness, right? So we can notice this kind of emptiness. Bhante Sujata's note here says, "Oh, oneness like emptiness is a relative concept." those things that are more distracting and tempting are absent, leaving only that which is more peaceful. That's like us coming here this evening. We're not right in the middle of the village right now, not in the middle of buying and selling and, maybe not cows and horses, but vehicles and entertainments and gatherings. We're not in the middle of that right now. We've come to this place, wherever it is that you're sitting. And so there is the oneness of this place, in a way, that is empty of the diversity of the town. And in the same way, a mendicant, a monastic, a practitioner, ignoring the perception of the village and the perception of people, focuses on the oneness dependent on the perception of wilderness. If you're living in a forest monastery, you can even just not notice that the people are there, the other monastics, the little meditation huts. You can just apply the mind to the wilderness, the perception of wilderness. And the mind can leap forth, gain confidence, settle down, and become decided in the perception of wilderness. And they understand. Here there is no stress due to the perception of village or the perception of people. There's only this modicum of stress, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of wilderness. They understand this field of perception is empty of the perception of the village. It's empty of the perception of people. There's only this that is not emptiness, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of wilderness. And so they regard it as empty of what is not there, but as to what remains, they understand that it is present. That's how emptiness manifests in them, genuine, undistorted, and pure. And then through the sutta, it gets more refined. They go from the perception of wilderness to the perception of just earth, as if the trees and the earth has all just been flattened out. It's all just earth. And then from the earth, they go on to the perception of infinite space, and they go through the formless realms. And in each case, they regard it as empty of what is not there. That is, their perception has become more refined. Their perception has taken one aspect of the whole and chosen that as a oneness, while the other things, it's allowed the attention to move away from those. There's the emptiness of those things in the field of perception. And at each stage, they're choosing an object of attention that is more peaceful. That is, it's free of more things. It's empty of all the other things. Like refining the attention. And at each stage, it's more peaceful. Okay, up to the point where they are ignoring the highest of the formless realms, the perception of dimension, of neither perception nor non-perception. They're focusing on the oneness dependent on the signless immersion of the heart. And they understand what's left. There is only this modicum of stress, namely that related to the 6 sense fields dependent on this body and conditioned by life. Only that. And they focus on the oneness dependent on the signless immersion of the heart. Their mind leaps forth, gains confidence, settles down, and becomes decided in that signless immersion of the heart. They understand with wisdom, even this is produced by choices and intentions. Whatever is produced by choices and intentions is impermanent and liable to cessation. And seeing this, their mind is freed from the defilements of sensuality, desire to be reborn, and ignorance. When they're freed, they know they're freed. They understand here there is no stress. due to defilements of sensuality, desire to be reborn, or ignorance. This field perception is empty of the perception of those things. There's only this that is not emptiness, namely that related to the six sense fields, dependent on this body and conditioned by the life. And so they regard it as empty of what is not there, but as to what remains, they understand that it is present. That's how emptiness manifests in them, genuine, undistorted, pure, and supreme. And this is the highest emptiness. Whatever ascetics and Brahmins enter and remain in the pure, ultimate, supreme emptiness, whether in the past, future, or present, all of them enter and remain in this same pure, ultimate, supreme emptiness. And so you should train like this. We will enter and remain in the pure, ultimate, supreme emptiness. And this would be our ultimate peace. It's not freedom from the six sense fields and not freedom from life. Those things are still there. There's still senses, there's still a body, it's still breathing and warm and interacting with the world. However, here there is no stress due to the defilements of sensuality, desire to be born, or ignorance, or any other defilements. Those things end. Those things are gone. It's this process of peeling away everything else, everything that's not necessary to us, finding the emptiness that is the stillness and peace. But something I want to point out about this sutta is that the Buddha, he's living in Savatthi at this time. And Savatthi was like a major center for the monastics. There was a lot of, everyone went there. They wanted to see the Buddha. People were going there all the time. They were talking to him. He was giving so many teachings to so many different people. It was the monastery where he spent the majority of his time, or Savatthi. I think there were different places within Savatthi, but he spent the majority of his teaching career there, more there than anywhere else. And it was a major center, and people were coming all the time. There was activity all the time. So he wasn't literally just sitting in the wilderness contemplating emptiness. He was sitting near this thriving town of Savatthi, where the people would come to see him. He was sitting in the midst of this large, thriving monastery, and yet abiding in emptiness, mostly, as during that time. So we should understand what that emptiness is, that it is this freedom from those defilements. While the life goes on and the body goes on and the senses go on and all of that. So then, I want to briefly bring us to, well, not a sutta, but a famous passage from the Vinaya. I think there's a sutta version also, but here's the Vinaya version. So this is from the Vinaya text, the Mahakandika, and it starts with telling the story of the Buddha's awakening in the early days of his Sangha, and it comes to a point where he has about 60 Arahant disciples. We've sort of watched the numbers grow over time, and we're up to 60. This is, again, still early in his teaching career. But he gets to 60-ish, and then he tells the monks, "I'm free from all snares, both human and divine. You too are free from all snares, both human and divine." This is all of his disciples here. He's speaking to our Arahants. They've realized that supreme emptiness. They're done with those defilements. And he's recognizing that you too are free from all snares, both human and divine. And then he tells them, go wandering, monks, for the benefit and happiness of humanity, out of compassion for the world, for the good benefit and happiness of gods and humans. You should each go a different way. Proclaim the teaching that is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, that has a true goal and is well articulated. Set out the perfectly complete and pure spiritual life. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are ruined because of not hearing the teaching. There will be those who understand. So this is the Buddha's injunction for his disciples, specifically those who have already realized this for themselves. In this case, he's telling them, well, what do you do then? Did you just sit in the cave and enjoy your peace? No, he's saying go out. Go out and talk to the people and show them what is peace. Some of them can understand, some of them can see it, some of them will be inspired to follow. So, I've been reflecting on, again, this topic of peace, especially inspired by the Walk for Peace going on in the southeastern United States right now. About 20 venerable monks have been walking from Fort Worth, Texas. I think they're in North Carolina now. They're on their way to Washington, D.C. And I know Chintina will want me to mention the dog. They have a dog who seems like a wonderful dog and is really helping them connect with people. But anyway, they're connecting with people strongly. People are coming out and in large numbers all along their route. There's a lot of inspiration. There's a lot of connection and, getting a lot of media attention and just people really being moved by what they're doing. And I've been reflecting about this. They're not the only ones who have ever gone on a peace walk. This is a tradition. This is connecting with ancient times, even like the Buddha sending out his disciples, as we just said. They're basically going on a peace walk. They're basically trying to show the world through their presence what is peace and how do we find it? How do we attain it? Sharing the teachings that will lead to it. The Buddha himself did a lot of walking throughout his career. We see these teachers. We also see instances of people walking in order not to show the truth they've already found, but to find it, to seek it. The pilgrimage I recently went on honoring our founding mother of the Bhikkhuni Sangha, Mahapajapati Gotami, Terry. We were commemorating the walk that came before her awakening. The walk that she did from the palace of Kapilavastu with 500 women of the palace to the place where the Buddha was staying. And she was seeking. She was not yet an arahant. According to the story, she was already a stream enterer. She was already well on the path, but she had not completed the path. And this walk to go and seek ordination as a bhikkhuni, to request that through great difficulties. This is part of her path. This is part of her story of seeking, of, having some clue that there's peace in the world, but, how do you find it? How do you get there? What do I do next? Trying to find the quickest way there and needing to walk a long way to do that. So there's traditions of walking in lots of cultures, obviously from the Buddha's time. But, there's pilgrimage in various religions. There's Christian pilgrimage. There's, Islam has pilgrimage. I think probably most religions do. I'm not necessarily an authority on all of them, but I think it's a very common thing that people will go out and walk or travel or seek something, to take some time out for a spiritual purpose. Go for many reasons, right? Sometimes it's to find peace that they think exists elsewhere, or that they wish to find within themselves. And sometimes it's to demonstrate, to share. So, this particular peace walk across the US, I guess I've been interested in this sort of practice for a while. When I was new to Buddhism, I read the biography of Peace Pilgrim. I don't know if you're familiar. She was not a Buddhist, but she was a woman who started in, well, I just watched an interview with her today. She said several times, January 1st, 1953, she started walking across the country. I think she started at the Rose Parade in Pasadena. She walked in front, and she walked all the way across the country wearing a tunic. On its front, it says Peace Pilgrim. On the back, it says walking 25,000 miles for peace. And she did. She walked 25,000 miles, and after that, she stopped counting. And she kept walking for the next 30 something years. And she walked without any baggage. She had her tunic. She had a piece of paper and a toothbrush in her pocket. She had her sneakers. And she walked until people gave her lodgings. She didn't ask, just until somebody offered. She didn't eat until somebody gave her food. She went south in the winter and went north in the summer so that she could wear the same clothes all year. And she did that for 30 years. And she was her goal was to show people peace. And it's interesting to read about her, and there's even there are interviews with her. You can find her on YouTube if you want to. Peace Pilgrim. And she's not a Buddhist, but I think she was a deeply, deeply peaceful person. And when I was new to Buddhism, I was coming, well, I grew up Christian. I was raised in the church, but then I had my atheist phase. So when I was converting to Buddhism, I was converting from atheism to Buddhism. And for me at that time, it was sort of important to have an example of peace as just sort of part of the human condition, something that somebody can realize on their own. Some sort of image of awakening is just like this is part of human experience, is that there are sometimes really incredible people who can realize something and can share it with the world. And it doesn't have to be, some certain doctrine or some certain school or lineage or anything. It's just like there is a human experience of peace that can be shared with people. And for me, it made me sort of feel like, that I didn't necessarily need to believe in Buddhism. At that point, I was, again, atheist, resistant to religion. I've changed now. I'm fine with Buddhism now, obviously. Obviously. But but it was sort of a process of transition for me to be able to sort of consider myself part of a religion. And to see an example of somebody who's like, well, I don't know if, any particular doctrine is true, but I can see in some of the Buddhists I knew, and also in other exemplars, that I can believe that there's such a thing as peace. I can believe that there's such a thing as awakening. And to have figures from various traditions who are instantiating and demonstrating peace in various ways, I think is important. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are like, one of the really nice things about this current peace walk in the Southeast is like, we have these Buddhist monks walking through very heavily Christian areas. And they've had a variety of responses to that. They've had the people who are coming and heckling them and so forth, or debating. But also many, many churches have been inviting them to stay. And they're not trying to convert anybody. They're not teaching anything about Buddhism. They're just saying, we're walking for peace. And here's how you can be a little bit more peaceful in this moment. And demonstrating that it's possible to be a little bit more peaceful in this moment, giving the faith of that. And it seems like, that's connecting with people. I've been watching this. I've been even looking a little bit at some of the Christians on YouTube responding to this. Some of them very beautifully. Some of them feeling that this is like an inspiration and a call to their own faith. Like, how do we embody this? They're demonstrating this thing, and we also value this. How do we also embody this through our own way? And I think that's, such a wonderful, beautiful thing and such a service to the world. Another famous, important peace walk that I don't want to leave out is in Cambodia after the Cambodian genocide, the Khmer Rouge. Almost all of the Cambodian monks were killed during that time. The religion was largely destroyed in Cambodia. And afterwards, after the war, or, through the end of the war, there was the great, late, most venerable Hogosananda, a very famous in some circles Cambodian monk who led peace walks through the country of Cambodia. He led hundreds of monks and lay people, and they would walk up and down the country through the areas that were still, divided, still healing, still had mines all along the roads. At one point in one of the walks, they were shot at, and they were walking for peace, and they were walking to show people that there is such a thing as peace. And they were chanting from the Dhammapada, the verse that says, hatred never ceases through hatred. Through non-hatred alone does hatred cease. This is an eternal law. It was one of the main things that they were chanting and telling people and teaching them again and again, like, this is how it stops. If you want to stop hatred, you have to stop hating. That's the only way. And yeah, so there's these examples throughout time. And it's all interrelated, these different traditions, different religions. Of course, there's, in this country, there's also walks for civil rights and things in the 60s here. And there's, go back to India, then there's Gandhi leading marches for peace and independence there. So there's these rich traditions. Again, I think just sort of like a general human thing that we're seeking peace. And So there is this peace to be sought in engaging with the world. And the pilgrimage, though, also is like it is a way of stepping out of you're stepping into the world in one way and you're stepping out of the world in another way, right? You're stepping into meeting people every day in very uncertain circumstances. You never know what's going to happen or what's going to be around the next corner, right? Very uncertain in terms of the worldly conditions. But it's also stepping out of whatever else you were doing, right? Stepping out of daily routines, stepping out of the place where you live and where you have all your stuff and all your people and all your preoccupations. You know, it's stepping out of that and letting all that go, letting the past and the future go, because while you're on the road, there's no time for the past and future, really. You have to just be with things as they're arising because they're uncertain, because you don't know what's going to happen next exactly, because of the difficulties. Yeah. So I think this kind of walk can be both a way of seeking peace and also a way of demonstrating peace. And but we sort of need to understand how it works. We need to understand the giving up and the focusing on what is peaceful and the turning away from what is not peaceful. But that's how it works. There's a choice there, there's an effort there that we can make and that is, I think, effective and is for our benefit, but also for the benefit of the world. So it's all part of the whole. So, yeah, I think I don't have that much more to say. You know, here we are. I'm talking about pilgrimage and going out and walking around. And what we're actually going to be doing here for the next couple months is we're going to be going more inward. We're going to be starting our Dhamma winter retreat. And well, promise we will be sharing the details about what we're doing and how you can interact. There's been some uncertainty and last minute changes about that, so we haven't sent out our announcement yet. But we will be having ways for you to share with us in going inward. So you can think of it as like the inner pilgrimage is sort of how I'm thinking of it. How to, you know, do that walking of emptiness, of like carrying less, of turning away from the distractions and coming towards what is peaceful again and again with each step, with each sitting, with each breath, coming to that with the idea that it is, you know, it's for my benefit and also for hopefully not only my benefit, that it's all connected, that each of us can do this for ourselves, knowing that, you know, again, to stop hatred, you have to stop hating. And to find peace, you have to be peaceful. And so, you know, bringing that into ourselves, we're making the world more peaceful. And we do that, you know, not without engagement with the world, but with giving ourselves the time to come out of the things that are not peace. Giving ourselves the time and space and clarity for that one way or another, whether we're walking or whether we're sitting or whether we're standing or whether we're lying down in all the postures. So I think I will pause there. And yes, I see a request in the chat for the link about the Peace Pilgrim. Yes, I'll share that in a minute. So I want to pause there and thank you for your patient listening and welcome any questions or comments or sharing that you have. I don't know if anyone has been on a long walk or a pilgrimage or been inspired by one that you'd like to share about, or anything about finding peace, either in the midst of the world or not. Daniel, yes.
Thank you, Aya. One thing I like to, one thing I enjoy about the walk, as you consider it, is how um, it kind of reminds us that everyone wants peace and everyone can get behind that, you know. I think sometimes it can seem and appear that, you know, everybody wants conflict or everybody wants division. And I think it's really powerful to show how, in a way, people are tired of conflict and want this peace and want to support it, even if it means coming out. And the kind of coverage and momentum it's having is showing that kind of underneath it all, that's what we're hoping for. And so I think that's a lot of what I take away from the walk is, you know, people are really hungry for that. And I think that's a really good thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It does seem like this is a time where people are especially being drawn to this idea of peace, where it's resonating in a way that, you know, yeah, I know even personally other monks who have walked, gone for long walks and haven't had this same experience. And maybe it's because they don't have a dog, and maybe it's because there's, you know, various conditions why, you know, this group also had the, um, well, the strange luck, is it good fortune or bad fortune? I don't know, of having gotten in an accident early in their walk. They were hit by a vehicle, and one of them had to have his leg amputated, and as a result of his injuries. And so then they got media attention, and now it's snowballed. So, you know, these strange things. But I think part of it is what you said, that, you know, people really are kind of hungry for it. Let's see, I see a note in the chat. Mary Joy mentioning Nevada Desert Experience Sacred Peace Walk every year for about 50 years, the week before Easter, from Las Vegas to Mercury, Nevada National Security Site. Okay. Yes. So various peace walk opportunities that people can join in. Yeah, we recently, somebody wrote to us and said, hey, I'm doing a peace walk in San Francisco on February 21st. Can you announce to your group? And do you want to join us? And so, well, we'll be in retreat, but we can announce to the group. And if anyone wants to join a peace walk in a hike in San Francisco on February 21st, we can share details about that with you. It sounds like a lovely thing I'd like to do if I weren't in retreat. Any other comments, thoughts, sharing? Yes, one here, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just reflecting on how there can be so much momentum to our normal activities and all of the things that we feel like we have to do that aren't peaceful. And there's like this sense of sort of like, you know, oh, I can't relax. I have to do all these things. And it can be both like our to-do list, but also even just like our thought patterns and these things that feel sort of obligatory. And yeah, just reflecting on the value of stepping out of our usual patterns, whether that's leaving our home and our work and our local community and going on a walk somewhere, or stepping out of those patterns into retreat, you know, just the way that, you know, like once you've had that much disruption, it gives you sort of more freedom and openness to disrupt other patterns as well. And maybe gives you an opportunity to change things that otherwise are hard to change. Yeah, just like the way of like, there's a way that like having a good routine can be very stabilizing and peaceful, but there's also a way that like breaking your routine can be actually give you openness to find peace in ways that otherwise don't feel possible.
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. Okay. Jeanette. Yes.
I had a question about the sutra. I was curious, the phrase "one with dust in their eyes," is that just referring to a person who can't see? Was there more that Buddha meant when he said that?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically our problem is delusion, right? All of us, unless we're arahants, we're still somewhat deluded. It's just a question of like how much are we blocked and impeded from seeing? Like if you're just like buried in dust, then you're not going to be able to really understand and engage when somebody gives you a Dhamma talk, right? There's just sort of too much that's in the way. And it doesn't mean that things are hopeless for that person. We can, there's always hope. There's always another chance in the Buddha's teaching. But there are times when we're really blocked, when we're, we just can't see clearly at all. And at such a time, you probably aren't going to make the breakthrough into full awakening, right? You need to be in a state of having only a little bit of dust in the eyes. And that's when things can really be clarified. When the Buddha awoke, he had his own awakening, not based on teachings from anyone else. He figured it out himself, and he looked around the world and he was like, I don't know if anyone else is going to understand this. This is very subtle. It's very hard to see. No one's going to understand it, and it's going to be a lot of trouble for me to try to teach anybody. So I'm just going to sit in meditation and enjoy my own peace. That was his first thought. He's like, I don't know if anyone's going to get it. And then the story goes that the god Brahma came and said, no, please, you have to teach. There are those with little dust in their eyes. They will understand. For the benefit of those with little dust in their eyes, please teach the Dhamma. So so that comes up, and if it's sort of a stock phrase in the suttas, having little dust in their eyes, and that means being ready to receive the teachings and make use of them, basically.
Thank you.
All right, Richard, yes.
Thank you. First, I just wanted to say that if you think about it, the Buddha went on the longest, both in distance and in time, walk for peace, because that's what he was looking for was peace. I mean, nibbana really means peace, right? So I mean, it's one way of defining it. But the other thing I wanted to point out was this sutta that you went through, 121, the smaller sutra on emptiness. Buddha actually explains in this sutta exactly how a person goes from being a non-returner to an arahant. In that section there, his mind, this is Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, because it's hard for me to have the other one on the screen and talk to you at the same time. So I usually go to the book. I'm not favoring one over the other. His mind enters into the sightless concentration of mind and acquires confidence, steadiness, and decision. He understands thus, this sightless concentration of mind is conditioned and volitionally produced, But whatever is conditioned and volitionally produced is impermanent, subject to cessation. When he knows and sees thus, his mind is liberated from the taint of sensual desire, from the taint of being, and from the taint of ignorance. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge it is liberated. He understands. Birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what has been done, and there is no more coming to any state of being. So this is the actual way to approach. If you make it to Chaito Vimukti, cessation, in your meditation, so that you definitely have become a non-returner. If you're a noble disciple and you make it to that point as a noble disciple, you'll definitely be a non-returner. And then it's that looking at it in this way that he describes here that unlocks everything and allows you to attain complete enlightenment as an arahant. So anyway, it just caught my attention while you were going through the sutra.
Mhm. Yeah.
Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, no, the Buddha is great at laying out all the steps for us, and one or another step may be the appropriate one for a given time, but yeah, it's also inspiring to know what the steps are. Most of us are probably not quite at this one yet, but it's good to know, and it does sort of uplift and brighten the mind to know it's possible and think about what that would mean. So thank you for highlighting that.
I just wanted to mention, I put a picture of a flyer in the chat. I got it off of Instagram. The Walk for Peace is going to be in San Francisco, February 24th.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's the one that they invited us to and tell our friends about.
Super.
So,
Okay.
Great. That's, I think, looks like the same one. So thank you for sharing that. Now I don't have to find it myself.
All right.
Yeah, so please go walk for peace there or wherever it is that you may find to do that. Welcoming you all to do this very human thing of going out and walking and either looking for peace or demonstrating peace, just somehow out of faith that it's possible, moving through the world in such a way. I think that will be for the benefit of many people, including you, and including all of us. So thank you very much for your patient listening. And stay tuned for announcements about what's happening next week. There will be one coming sometime in the next couple days, we hope. And you all well. And now we'll be closing with paying our respects to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha together. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagawa Buddhang Bhagawantang Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. All right. Thank you all for your patient listening. And